Islam plays key role in maintaining Islam as a religion of peace. To provide a dynamic and fruitful discussion, INFIT, as the initiator, collaborate with Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, inviting various Islamic organizations in Pakistan, Malaysia, and Tunisia to join together. The discussion aims to share experiences and efforts that have made by the four countries in strengthening the understanding and practice of Islam as Rahmatan and Alamin. By having this international seminar, it is expected that the idea of tolerant and peaceful Islam in Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Tunisia will become notable and influential image for global society. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the international seminar, Building International Cooperation to Reinforce Commitments and Practices of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin.
Langsung mulai ya? Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, good morning, selamat petang. Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Hassan, the Ambassador of Pakistan to Indonesia, distinguished speakers, all participants, ladies and gentlemen, we will start our parallel session, and the title of the session is very interesting. We will talk about the strategic role of Muslim women in reinforcing and expanding the practice of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin. We will draw the experience from Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, as well as Tunisia. So this session will cover the experiences of how Muslim women organization in 4 countries in supporting, in developing the Muslim communities in particular, as well as the global community in general, especially in the field of education, in the field of health, economic, religion, etc. And this session will also talk about how the Muslim women organization also tackling and preventing violent extremism in respected countries. So my name is Riri Hariroh. I will be the moderator for this session, and this session will be delivered in English. And if you want to if you need any translation, please you can just click the button of interpretation on the bottom of your screen. And this seminar will be the safe space for everyone to make any comment and also raise question without any discrimination. So make sure that you have updated Zoom, and you have tools that are available for you to access in any languages, be it Bahasa, English, or Arabic. And before we start, the key messages that will be delivered by His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Hassan, the Ambassador of Pakistan to Indonesia, let me work through the webinar rules today. So first of all, we will have the key messages that will be addressed by the ambassador, and then after that, we will have a panel discussion with the distinguished speaker for 4 countries, and then after that, we will have Q&A session, and the last but not least, then we will have conclusion and wrap up discussion. So I hope that everyone, the participant, the speakers will have a very good internet connection so that the discussion will run very well. Thank you very much for your participation. We would like to start the first session that will be the key messages that will be delivered by His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Hassan, the Ambassador of Pakistan to Indonesia. Without further ado, I would like to ask Dr. Muhammad Hassan to deliver his speech for about 7 until 10 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you. You are still muted, His Excellency? Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Let me begin by thanking the organizers, including INFIT, Nahdlatul Ulama, Muhammadiyah, and embassies of Indonesia in Pakistan, Malaysia, and Tunisia for arranging this important seminar. It's an honor for me to speak on the topic of today's discussion, the strategic role of women, Muslim women, in reinforcing and expanding the practice of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin. History bears witness to the fact that women have always played an important role, along with men, in their duty of spreading the message of Allah. From Mother Hawa, Salamullahi alayha, to the advent of Islam and afterward, many famous women are mentioned in the Holy Quran, Ahadith, and Islamic history, whose deeds have filled the pages of history. The Holy Quran has dedicated 2 of its chapters, Surah Al-Maryam and Surah Al-Nisa, to women. There is also little doubt that in the formative years of Islam, women have played a vital role in the da'wah of Islam. Our starting point in this regard is the role of al-Mu'mineen Hazrat Khadijatul Kubra, who was not only the first Muslim in the world and the biggest source of encouragement to the Holy Prophet ﷺ, but was also his companion during the toughest years of his prophethood. The first Shaheed in the way of Islam, Hazrat Samia, was also a woman. During the lifetime of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, women were integral part of the intellectual discourse of Medina. After his death, many female companions, particularly the Ummahatul Mu'mineen, acted as vital custodians of the huge treasure chest of knowledge in the form of ahadith. During the later Islamic dynasties, the history is replete with the stories of incredible women who immensely contributed to the legacy of Islam as scholars, jurists, rulers, benefactresses, warriors, businesswomen, and legal experts. Women also played an important role in the struggle for Pakistan. Abadi Begum, the mother of famous Muslim leader Maulana Shaukat Ali and Maulana Muhammad Ali Johar, played a leading role during the Khilafat movement. Bia, as she was known to be, stood like a rock behind her sons and encouraged them to stand firm in their struggle. Similarly, the role played by Miss Fatima Jinnah, sister of Qaeda Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, can ever be forgotten. Miss Fatima Jinnah was joined by thousands of women in the struggle for Pakistan. Begum Rana Liaqat Ali Khan, Begum Salma Tasadduq Hussain, Begum Jahan Ara Shah Nawaz, Lady Abdullah Harun, and Shaista Ikramullah are the few names that appear on the top. Today, Pakistani women are active in all spheres of life, including in higher education and theology. Like in most parts of the world, Pakistani women make important contributions to tempering extremist voices, preventing and resolving crises, and rebuilding communities affected by violence. Pakistan has no dearth of women working to address the political grievances, socio-economic injustices, and imbalances, in line with the teachings of Islam and Sharia. Besides performing their religious and social roles, women in Pakistan are also contributing to build the society as per the ideals of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, for the Muslim women to play their role in the spread of Islam, it is essential that they are provided with the necessary environment and the social status granted to them by Islam in the society. They are also needed to be protected from abusive cultural practices prevalent in some Muslim societies, such as honor killings, forced marriages, and gender discriminations, which are contrary to the Islamic teachings. Muslim women are also target of Islam haters and Islamophobes in Muslim minority countries. According to OIC, Islamophobia and violence against Muslims are rapidly increasing in the world. Muslim women, due to their Islamic dress code, are particularly vulnerable and often being subjected to verbal and physical abuse in the streets and workplace. Their hijab is a major target of the Islamophobes. At least in 14 countries, hijab is fully or partially banned in violation of the human rights of the Muslim women. In some countries, including the so-called biggest democracy in Asia, violence against Muslim and Muslim women are officially promoted. In some so-called democracies, the government-sponsored radicals have been openly calling for raping Muslim girls and women with impunity. They have even created apps to auction Muslim women. The plight of the Muslim women in occupied territories such as Palestine and Kashmir, no need to mention here. We all know. In order for the Muslim women to play a role in reinforcing Islam, we need to first protect her from these abuses. Muslims around the world also are needed to promote interfaith dialogue, dispel misconceptions about Islamic teachings on the status of women, and fight bigotry, Islamophobia, and hate speeches against Islam globally. Ladies and gentlemen, the most effective way of doing so globally is to let Muslim women come on the forefront and explain the true teachings of Islam and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet to the ill-informed people. As the words coming from Muslim women will be more appealing and more convincing than saying the same by the supposed oppressor Muslim men. A number of women organizations around the world are already active in this field. In many countries, including in Pakistan, women are playing an effective role in fighting violent extremism. During the height of terrorism in Pakistan, a decade ago, a group of Pakistani women established a group called Amn Nisa, meaning peace through women. It was aimed at de-radicalizing the Muslim youth. Similarly, a group of mothers of radicalized youth in Pakistan launched a successful campaign to bring back their sons from the extremist groups. They were so successful that they saved thousands of Pakistani Muslim youths from falling into the trap of the radicals. We are ready to share our experiences with our brothers and sisters in other Muslim countries. I would stop here and let the honorable scholars lined up after me to enlighten us on how best we can achieve this objective. I look forward for a fruitful discussion. Thank you for your patience. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Ambassador Muhammad Hassan. Please give a big applause to the ambassador for very interesting key messages. I would like to highlight some important messages that he delivered. First, that although Muslim women have challenges, especially in some problem of gender discrimination, as well as the increasing Islamophobia that happen around the world, and also how the radical groups always try to recruit a young generation to embrace their ideas. But Muslim women in Pakistan, they are very active in combating radicalism, as well as speak out against the Islamophobia and also hate speech. I think the experience of women in Pakistan can be shared and also have similarities from some countries, especially the countries that we will discuss today. Thank you very much, the Ambassador Muhammad Hassan. So we will continue our discussion, ladies and gentlemen. And right now, the speakers, the distinguished speakers from countries from Indonesia, from Malaysia, and also from Tunisia and Pakistan, it's already here. I would call and I would read their bio one by one. First of all, of course, I would call my chairperson, Ibu Anggia Ermarini. She is the chairperson of Fatayat Central Board of Fatayat Nahdlatul Ulama, the women wings of Nahdlatul Ulama. And the second, Professor Dr. Alimatul Qibtiyah. She is also the one of the women leader in Muhammadiyah Indonesia, as well as the commissioner of the National Commission on Anti-Violence Against Women of Indonesia. We also have Professor Dr. Munjia Sulhi from Azaytuna University, Tunisia. Assalamualaikum, Professor. And the fourth, we will have Ms. Sehar Kamran, the former member of the Senate of Pakistan from IRC-RA Pakistan. Assalamualaikum, Senator Sehar Kamran.
Waalaikumsalam.
And we also have our sister from Malaysia, International Islamic University of Malaysia, Dr. Fatimah Az-Zahra binti Syed. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Fatimah. So now we will proceed to our discussion today. As I mentioned earlier, that our topic today is about the strategic role of Muslim women in reinforcing funding the practice of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin, and every speaker will deliver their presentation about their role in their organization in reinforcing the values of Rahmatan lil Alamin. So every speaker will have around 7 until 10 minutes to deliver their presentation, and then after that we will have Q&A session. Okay, without further ado, I would give the first opportunity to Ms. Anggia Ermarini, the chairperson of Central Board Fatayat Nahdlatul Ulama. Please, Mbak Anggia, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Terima kasih Mbak Riri. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'du. Excellencies, Ambassador Muhammad Hassan, dan semua speakers yang saya hormati, Mbak Riri, moderator, lalu kemudian teman-teman dari Infit, Bapak Ibu sekalian yang bersama-sama dengan kami semua di webinar kali ini. Mudah-mudahan kita semuanya sehat dan selalu mendapatkan keberkahan dalam semua langkah-langkah kita. Pandemi masih ada di sekitar kita, tapi dengan teknologi kita bisa tetap sharing, dan saya sangat apresiasi sekali tentang acara kali ini, tentang perempuan dan peran-peran mereka, peran lembaga-lembaga perempuan itu atau perempuan secara individu terhadap bagaimana mengejawantahkan tentang Islam rahmatan lil alamin. Izinkan saya pakai bahasa Indonesia biar lebih lancar. Bapak Ibu dan yang saya hormati dan semuanya yang hadir dalam forum kali ini, Fatayat Nahdlatul Ulama adalah yang tadi sempat disampaikan oleh Mbak Riri adalah BANOM, ya, di Badan Otonom atau Wings of Nahdlatul Ulama, yang terdiri dari perempuan muda Nahdlatul Ulama. Jadi perempuan-perempuan muda punya spesifik karena hanya sampai di usia 45 kami bisa di Fatayat NU. Nah, pertama kali ketika mungkin bisa saya kirim slide ya, Mbak, mungkin bisa ditampilkan. Pertama kali dilahirkan tahun 50 dan awalnya adalah semangat pembentukan Fatayat NU setelah Nahdlatul Ulama tahun 26, lalu kemudian tahun 50 Fatayat NU dibentuk adalah untuk mewadahi para perempuan Nahdlatul Ulama, dan yang paling utama adalah bergerak di bidang pendidikan. Kita tahu pada saat itu tahun 50 pendidikan terhadap perempuan tidak semasif hari ini, tidak se-equal dengan laki-laki hari ini. Oleh karena itu, Nahdlatul Ulama merasa sangat penting untuk membentuk bandong baru yang terdiri dari para perempuan-perempuan di Nahdlatul Ulama. Fatayat NU terdiri dari secara nasional ada di pimpinan nasional, lalu kemudian kita punya 34 di pimpinan wilayah, lalu kita punya 490 di pimpinan wilayah cabang, lalu kemudian ada 20.000 PAC itu adalah di kecamatan, lalu kemudian ada 21.000 lebih di PAC ya, di kecamatan, di ranting. Dan ada di beberapa lebih dari, kita belum punya data tentang anak ranting itu di bawah desa. Ranting itu di desa. Jadi di desa-desa, terutama di Jawa, itu setiap desa kami punya struktur di Fatayat NU. Lalu di beberapa negara, termasuk di Pakistan juga, Excellencies, just report information for you that we have oh ya, pakai bahasa Inggris nggak apa-apa ya, nanti ada yang menerjemahkan. Kita punya PCI itu pimpinan cabang istimewa di Pakistan juga. Jadi teman-teman Fatayat NU yang ada di Indonesia, kemudian sekolah di sana, mereka mendirikan Fatayat NU di daerahnya tertentu, terutama hari ini di Pakistan ada juga. Di dalam strukturnya, area yang kita lakukan itu tidak hanya dakwah. Dakwah adalah intinya syiar dari Fatayat NU, tetapi kita juga concern di isu tentang pendidikan, lalu kemudian tentang sosial, ekonomi juga, lalu kemudian juga kesehatan, lalu juga di advokasi, yang ini menjadi program-program yang kita turunkan menjadi program-program yang bisa menyentuh langsung kepada masyarakat atau perempuan dan anak. Fokus dalam aturan kami di dalam kitab suci organisasi kami ini di PDPRT, kami berfokus untuk perempuan dan anak. Jadi mulai dari kebutuhan anak-anak sampai kemudian bagaimana perempuan, lalu kemudian berlanjut tentang bagaimana kayak hari ini kita di Indonesia sedang memperjuangkan tentang bagaimana para perempuan ini atau masyarakat di sekitar kita tidak tereliminasi, terkurangi kekerasan seksual misalnya, seperti itu bagian dari concern Fatayat NU. Sejak dari mulai kelahirannya sampai hari ini selalu berkembang tentang fokus yang dilakukan oleh Fatayat NU dengan mengikuti perkembangan zaman, tentunya dengan mengikuti apa yang sedang dihadapi oleh zaman tersebut, termasuk ketika kita yang hari ini perempuan dan anak-anak menjadi salah satu frontliner atau menjadi salah satu pionir dalam kasus atau dalam kasus-kasus ekstremisme atau radikal, itu juga bagian concern kami, dan itu menjadi tema utama kami dalam bidang dakwah untuk bisa memberikan keterampilan dan memberikan pengetahuan yang lebih kuat lagi, terutama kepada para pendakwah Fatayat NU. Sebagian besar anggota Fatayat NU adalah guru, kemudian mereka adalah ustazah, mereka adalah bunyai adalah ulama perempuan di komunitas masing-masing. Oleh karena itu, penguatan pengetahuan dan keterampilan terhadap para ulama perempuan ini sangat penting sekali di Fatayat NU. Bahkan kita terus-menerus beberapa 2 minggu yang lalu secara terus-menerus kita bikin halakoh tentang dakwah yang ramah terhadap dakwah yang ramah bagi para pendakwah Fatayat NU. Slide berikutnya. Nah, secara tradisional atau secara natural, ya, naturally kita di Fatayat NU itu mempunyai namanya majelis taklim. Majelis taklim hampir di setiap hari, kalau kita potret dari atas gitu ya, di Indonesia dari atas gitu, hampir setiap hari para jamaah Fatayat NU itu selalu mempunyai kegiatan. Apakah mereka menggunakan majelis taklim sholawatan, atau mungkin pakai yasinan, atau mungkin pengajian langsung dengan tema-tema tertentu, atau ngaji pakai kitab atau yang lainnya. Jadi kalau kita potret secara nasional, hampir setiap hari, bahkan mungkin setiap hari puluhan kegiatan yang dilakukan oleh Fatayat NU, terutama yang ada di desa-desa. Mereka setiap minggu, setiap desa, setiap minggu mempunyai rutinan yang memang di situ adalah forum untuk bisa berkomunikasi, dan forum kalau menurut kami, ini forum yang membangun karakter bangsa. Itu forum-forum yang kecil-kecil yang dilakukan oleh teman-teman yang ada di lapangan itu. Nah, ini adalah beberapa prinsip dakwah Islam Rahmatan lil Alamin yang mendasari setiap langkah dakwah yang dilakukan oleh Fatayat NU. Dalam ini diberikan ketika, kalau dalam Fatayat, di Fatayat itu kami punya pendidikan kader yang secara formal gitu ya, bertahap, mulai dari LKD, jadi pendidikan latihan dasar, lalu kemudian pendidikan latihan lanjut, lalu kemudian ada juga PKN, pendidikan kepemimpinan nasional. Prinsip-prinsip ini dengan berbagai muatannya, disesuaikan dengan muatannya, ini menjadi prinsip dasar yang harus diketahui, yang harus dimiliki oleh setiap kader Fatayat NU. Pertama adalah Islam adalah agama yang cinta damai. Lalu kemudian ini kita menggunakan bagaimana dakwah yang dilakukan oleh teman-teman Fatayat NU adalah dakwah yang menggunakan approach yang ramah, approach yang damai, approach yang tidak kemudian memaksa, approach yang tidak memaki. Itu yang kemudian yang kita kembangkan. Keterampilan yang dilakukan di pendidikan kader kami itu kita lakukan, kita berikan prinsip-prinsip ini dengan latihan-latihan tentunya. Nah, yang saya katakan tadi akan terus berkembang dengan muatan lebih besar atau muatan lebih berat lagi ketika pelatihan itu lebih tinggi. Di PKN pasti tentunya lebih, di pelatihan kepemimpinan nasional pasti muatannya jauh lebih besar dan akan memotret lebih luas daripada misalnya pelatihan yang ada di LKD. Lalu kemudian tentang Islam agama yang universal, rasional dan berperadaban, memuliakan manusia, itu kemanusiaan ini menjadi poin ketika kita melangkah dalam intervensi isu apapun. Jadi memanusiakan manusia, mengangkat tinggi kemanusiaan ini adalah penting sekali. Ketika bicara tentang Islam, tentunya tidak hanya bicara tentang sholat atau puasa, tetapi juga bicara tentang ekonomi, bagaimana manusia bisa berkeadapan secara lebih baik, bisa sejahtera, pendidikan, dan lain sebagainya. Lalu kemudian prinsip aswaja, yaitu tasamuh, lalu tawasud dan tawazud, serta iktidal, ini menjadi landasan juga. Dan tidak hanya sekedar bagaimana kita memahami arti dari tasamuh tersebut, tetapi bagaimana kita sebagai kader Fatayat NU yang akan menjadi referensi di tengah-tengah masyarakat. Saya katakan referensi karena biasanya kader Fatayat NU adalah motivator desa, lalu kemudian penggerak desa, bunyai, guru. Ini biasanya mereka menjadi referensi di tengah-tengah masyarakat. Nah, prinsip-prinsip aswaja ini, prinsip-prinsip ahli sunnah wal jamaah ini juga harus dipahamkan, lalu kemudian juga mampu untuk bisa menjadi cara memecahkan masalah ketika ada di lapangan. Tidak hanya masalah-masalah besar yang ada di nasional, tapi masalah-masalah yang dihadapi oleh masyarakat secara langsung. Karena saya katakan tadi biasanya kader-kader Fatayat menjadi referensi di tengah-tengah masyarakat. Lalu kemudian konten dakwah, yaitu memadukan keislaman dan kebangsaan. Jadi semangat hubbul waton minal iman ini menjadi landasan ketika kita berbangsa, begitu. Jadi bagaimana mulai dari ini menjadi prinsip kami ya, bagaimana mulai dari sangat dini masyarakat Fatayat, maksud saya Fatayat, kader-kader Fatayat terutama di dalam dakwahnya itu mulai mengenalkan tentang keindonesiaan, mulai mengenalkan tentang keislaman tentu, lalu kemudian mulai mengenalkan kebangsaan. Jadi ini semangat atau ya semangat spirit tentang hubul watan minal iman ini menjadi bagian yang tak terpisahkan dalam dakwah Fatayat NU. Lalu kemudian tentang mayoritas melindungi dan minoritas melindungi mayoritas melindungi minoritas menghormati mayoritas. Ini adalah cara tentunya untuk menuju kondisi yang mutamadin, untuk menuju kondisi yang damai, menuju kondisi yang lebih berkeadaban. Lalu kemudian tentang membangun akhlak dan jati diri bangsa. Nah, membangun akhlak dan jati diri bangsa ini bukan hal yang mudah, dan Fatayat NU menggunakan instrumen yang tadi saya punya majalah majelis taklim itu adalah cara sarana atau wadah mendeliver tentang bagaimana nilai-nilai tentang keindonesiaan dan keislaman. Jadi nilai-nilai di situ, nilai-nilai yang kita punya tentang keislaman dan keindonesiaan, Islam yang ramah, Islam yang moderat, Islam yang plural, Islam yang adil, atau Indonesia yang plural juga, tentang Indonesia yang sangat mencintai sesama dan lain sebagainya, itu mulai diajarkan dan disebarluaskan melalui majelis-majelis taklim tersebut. Jadi di dalam majelis taklim yang dipunyai oleh Fatayat tidak hanya bicara tentang sholat puasa atau membayar zakat, tetapi juga membangun karakter, termasuk di dalamnya adalah isu-isu yang lain, termasuk misalnya isu tentang penurunan angka stunting. Lalu kemudian bagaimana pendidikan untuk anak-anak kita supaya menjadi generasi yang lebih unggul, bisa menjadi generasi emas. Nah, di forum-forum itu yang kita gunakan untuk mendeliver nilai yang sudah kita sepakati bersama, yang Fatayat NU sepakati bersama kepada masyarakat lebih luas lagi. Ini adalah beberapa slide berikutnya. Ini adalah beberapa.
Sorry, you have 2 more minutes. I'm sorry. 2 menit lagi. Maaf.
Ya udah, it's okay. Ya udah, kalau begitu yang ini di skip aja. Ini best practices aja. Saya langsung best practices dari Fatayat NU di slide berikutnya. Forum Dakwah Fatayat NU yang tadi saya sebutkan, yang punya majelis taklim, lalu kemudian ada gerakan perlindungan anak dari tindak kekerasan, itu bagian dari model dakwah. Jadi model dakwahnya tidak hanya, tadi saya katakan, tidak hanya berbicara tentang sholat dan puasa, tetapi juga bagaimana kita melindungi, kita membangun sebuah masyarakat yang lebih baik. Lalu kemudian saya akan masuk ke di sini poinnya tidak ada. Beberapa waktu yang lalu 2018 kita Fatayat NU menyelenggarakan yang Muslim Women Forum. Itu adalah dan menghasilkan deklarasi Jakarta. Itu adalah forum perempuan muda Muslim yang mendasari anggarannya itu adalah bahwa Indonesia punya penduduk Muslim yang sangat besar sekali, dan perempuan-perempuan Indonesia punya kesempatan yang besar ketika ingin menjadi apapun. Jadi ketika menjadi politisi seperti saya misalnya boleh, bisa, lalu kemudian menjadi guru, menjadi pengusaha, dan ini penting sekali untuk di scale up dan kemudian sharing ke beberapa negara yang bisa saling menguatkan tentunya. Jadi bicara tentang Islam tidak hanya bicara tentang tentang ajaran yang ajaran yang hanya di masjid saja. Jadi di dalam forum tersebut kita bicara tentang pendidikan, kita bicara tentang fashion, bahkan karena fashion juga bagian dari kalau di Indonesia hampir semuanya, saya nggak tahu pastinya angkanya, tetapi Muslim di Indonesia hampir semuanya pakai jilbab nih. Dan fashion di Indonesia, fashion Muslim di Indonesia luar biasa berkembangnya. Nah ini juga kita ramu tentunya untuk bagaimana segala aspek atau isu yang ada yang kita bicarakan ini menuju bagaimana Islam ini menjadi ajaran Islam yang rahmat lil alamin ini benar-benar menjadi bagian yang tak terpisahkan dalam jamaah Islam di seluruh Indonesia. Lalu kemudian hal lain yang kita punyai adalah jaringan Fatayat NU dari nasional sampai ke desa. Lalu kemudian beberapa tokoh NU yang menjadi referensi di tengah-tengah masyarakat atau bahkan mempunyai posisi yang strategis di tengah masyarakat, itu bisa menjadi kapital bagi Fatayat NU, terutama ketika akan mendeliver program-programnya, ketika akan memberikan intervensi kepada masyarakat yang lebih luas. Saya pikir itu.
Sorry.
Lagi.
Ya. Oke.
Terima kasih Mbak Riri dan semuanya. Mohon maaf. Wallahu muwaffiq. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very, very much to Ms. Anggia Ermarini for her very interesting presentation. I will highlight some role of Fatayat NU, especially in interpreting and also implementing the values of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin, or the Islam as the blessing of universe in their daily program and also activities of Fatayat NU, which structurally have the board from the central board until the village level. So the total of member of Fatayat NU is around 8 million. I think it's huge organization that have a very established structures, and their activities not only through the dakwah activities or religious activities, but also dealing with many issues like health, education, as well as preventing radicalism and also extremism in Indonesia. Okay, I'm sorry because we have like a very constrained time. So if I, remind you about the time, please don't be offended by that. Okay, and I will call the next speaker, our Professor Dr. Sorry, that I will check the correct name. Professor Dr. Monjia Sualhi from Azaytuna University, Tunisia, to deliver her presentation. And as I mentioned that Professor Monjia, you have 7 until 10 minutes, please. Yeah, the time is yours, Professor Monjia.
طيب شكرا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين. سعادة سفير أندونيسيا في تونس الأستاذ محمد حسن، السيدة رئيسة الجلسة، السادة والسيدات المحاضرون، السادة المنظمون لهذه الندوة التي أعتز بها كثيرا لأنها خصصت للمرأة دورا هاما في تعزيز قيم الرحمة. ورأيت من وجهة نظري أن الإسلام دين الرحمة والدين الذي اعتنى بالمرأة، فقد حرر حواء من تهمة إخراج الإنسان من الجنة، وأشاد ببلقيس تلك الملكة العظيمة، وأشاد بمريم أم عيسى عليه السلام. والنساء في الحضارة الإسلامية كان لهن دور كبير في نشر دين الرحمة. ورأيت أن المرأة اليوم تحتاج إلى كم من هائل من المعلومات حول هذا الدين الذي لم يكن دين عبادة فقط، وإنما كان دين عمل ودين تسامح ودين عالمي. وسأتكلم في هذه العناصر إن سمح لي الوقت: شمولية الرحمة في الإسلام، التعايش السلمي من مقتضيات الرحمة، التسامح والاعتدال في القرآن من مقتضيات الرحمة. وسنقف عند مصطلح التسامح بعض الدقائق. ثم العفو في الإسلام رحمة. الرحمة تؤسس لمجتمعات قائمة على المحبة والمودة والأخوة، كما أن الرحمة ضرورة إنسانية وعالمية. وأذكر بنماذج من الرحمة والتسامح والتعايش، ثم التطبيق العملي للرحمة وماذا يجب علينا نحن اليوم، وأنتهي إلى بعض النتائج والتوصيات. بالنسبة للرحمة، كتبها سبحانه وتعالى على نفسه. كتب ربكم على نفسه الرحمة. اسمه سبحانه وتعالى من أسمائه الرحمن الرحيم. وعن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لما خلق الله الخلق كتب في كتابه فهو عنده فوق العرش إن رحمتي سبقت غضبي. كما أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم أرسله ربه رحمة للعالمين، وقال عن نفسه عليه الصلاة والسلام: إنما أنا رحمة مهداة. وأعلمنا سبحانه وتعالى أن صفة الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام في هذه الآية من سورة التوبة: لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم. فتياتنا ونساؤنا في حاجة إلى معرفة هذه الرحمة الشاملة للعالم كله، حتى لا تنتمينا إلى المجموعات الإرهابية المتطرفة. بالنسبة للرحمة كذلك، هي أن يتغلب الإنسان على الغضب، أن يتجنب خطاب الكراهية، أن يتجنب خطاب التمييز. فميزة الرحمة في الإسلام أنها كذلك عامة، تشمل جميع خلق الله من بشر وحيوان ونبات وأرض وغير ذلك. إذا انطلقنا إلى التعايش السلمي وهو من مقتضيات الرحمة. أقف عند هذه الآية الكريمة: يا أيها الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة ولا تتبعوا خطوات الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين. فالآيات هذه تدعو إلى العفو، إلى الصفح، إلى كظم الغيظ، إلى الصبر على ما يدور في هذا العالم مما نراه نحن فيه شيء من الانحراف، لأن دورنا بما أننا ننتمي إلى دين الرحمة أن نرحم الناس وأن نساعدهم على دعوة متسامحة من رب العالمين سبحانه وتعالى. هنا أضيف إلى التعايش قيمة التسامح والاعتدال في القرآن. إن الإسلام دين السماحة والصفح. قال تعالى: فاصفح الصفح الجميل. وقال عز وجل: خذ العفو وأمر بالعرف وأعرض عن الجاهلين. نقف عند هذا المصطلح. لماذا؟ لأن هناك من يدعي أن التسامح هو عمل فوقي، أي أنا أقوى منك فأنا أتسامح معك. لا، ليس هذا أبدا. التسامح أن نتجاوز عن بعض أخطائنا وأن نتعايش رغم اختلافاتنا نتعايش. العفو رحمة في الإسلام. العفو من شيم الكرام الذين تربوا على قيمة الرحمة. فسبحانه وتعالى غرس فينا عبر القرآن هذه الصفة. وكان العفو من شيم الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم. انتبهوا لهذا الحدث. سرق أحدهم حذاءه فقال الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام: اللهم إن كان محتاجا فبارك له فيما أخذ، وإن لم يكن محتاجا فاجعل هذا آخر ذنب يذنبه. صلى الله عليه وسلم يا رسول الله، كم أنت رحيم وأنت قدوتنا. أتمر إلى شهادات في عفوه صلى الله عليه وسلم عن المعتدين رحمة بهم. عن أنس رضي الله عنه قال: كنت أمشي مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعليه برد نجراني غليظ الحاشية، فأدركه أعرابي فجذبه بردائه جذبة شديدة، فنظرت إلى صفحة عنق النبي وقد أثرت بها حاشية الرداء من شدة جذبه، ثم قال: يا محمد مر لي من مال الله الذي عندك. فالتفت إليه صلى الله عليه وسلم فضحك ثم أمر له بعطاء. سبحان الله على هذه الرحمة وعلى هذه الأخلاق التي يجب علينا أن نتحلى بها اليوم نساء ورجالا. شهادة أخرى عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه: سمع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لما ضربه قومه فأدموا قدميه الكريمتين، فكان يمسح الدم عن وجهه ويقول: اللهم اغفر لقومي فإنهم لا يعلمون. ولما هجم عليه أبناء الطائف يرمونه بالحجارة حتى دميت قدماه ولم يستطع المشي، طلب منه صحابته أن يدعو عليهم، فقال: اللهم ائت بأهل الطائف مؤمنين، فجاءوه معلنين إسلامهم سنة 9 للهجرة. شوفوا سبحانه، لما ضربوه ودم وجهه ماذا قال؟ ولما ضربوه ودمت قدماه ماذا قال؟ أي رحمة هذه يا رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام. كذلك هنا أذكر تسامح الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم عند المقدرة مع أهل مكة. يوم فتح مكة خافه الناس، إلا أنه قال لهم: ما تظنون أني فاعل بكم؟ قالوا: خيرا، أخ كريم وابن أخ كريم. فقال لهم: اذهبوا أنتم الطلقاء، العفو. ما أجمل العفو عند المقدر. لقد برز حلم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ورحمته في هذا الموقف الذي سار عليه الأنبياء من قبله وسار عليه المقتدون الصالحون من بعدهم. الرحمة تؤسس لمجتمعات قائمة على المحبة والمودة والأخوة. وهنا أريد أن أقول إن الإسلام دين عالمي، دين رحمة، دين لا يرفض حقوق الإنسان ويتماهى معها تمام التماهي، لأنه يكرم الإنسان. ونقرأ هذه الآية، يقول تعالى: والمؤمنون والمؤمنات بعضهم أولياء بعض، أي إخوة يساند بعضهم بعض، ويتعاونون فيما ينصر أحدهم الآخر، إنما المؤمنون إخوة. وترون أن كلمة المؤمن هنا جاءت عامة تشمل كل المؤمنين. الأخوة والرحمة ليست كلمة تقال، وإنما ممارسة تساعد الأخ في الإنسانية على الخروج من الدوامة التي يعيش فيها بواسطة تغيير السلوك السلبي نحو سلوك أفضل، وأفضل السلوك سلوك الرحمة. الرحمة تبني مجتمعا قائما على التكافل، أن يكفل المجتمع الفرد، وأن يكفل الفرد الفرد، وأن تكفل الأسرة الفرد. وهنا نرى أن هذه ضرورة 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 يؤيدها الحديث النبوي: المؤمن للمؤمن كالبنيان المرصوص يشد بعضه بعضا، يشد بعضه بعضا. فلا يجب أن يكون هناك تطاحن واختلاف وحروب بين الأخوة. ويختص التكافل في الإسلام بالمرضى والعجزة والضعفاء والمحتاجين والأرامل واليتامى والفقراء والمتضررين من الحروب ومن الأزمات الطبيعية. وهذه عين الرحمة، كما أنه يشمل كل أنواع البشر، كل أنواع البشر حسب لغاتهم، باختلاف لغاتهم وأديانهم وعقائدهم وغير ذلك. فالرحمة في التكافل هنا تشمل الجميع. إذن الرحمة هي مسؤولية الجميع. مجتمع الرحمة قائم على تحمل المسؤولية، إذ تفرض الحياة الإنسانية أن يتحمل كل فرد في المجتمع قسطا منها. كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. تقتضي هذه المسؤولية أن يتآخى الناس وأن يتحلوا بضمير حي يقظ يراعي الله في كل تصرفاته. ومن مقتضيات الإنسانية أن ننبه المخطئ إلى خطئه وندعوه إلى تغيير السلوك. إذن هنا هذا، ونكون في رحمة ونكون في لين. ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. وترون محبة الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام لأنه رحيم من 15 قرن إلى اليوم، والناس تحبه. إذن هنا لماذا الرحمة ضرورة إنسانية عالمية؟ يا نساء المسلمات، يا رجال المسلمين، نظرا لوحدة الأصل رغم الاختلاف. الناس خلقوا من نفس واحدة وخالقهم رب واحد، بدلالة قوله تعالى: يا أيها الناس اتقوا الله ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. إذن الناس كلهم من أصل واحد، الناس كلهم لهم الحق في الكرامة والعيش دون تمييز على أساس الدين أو اللون أو العرق، حسب قوله تعالى: ولقد كرمنا بني آدم. هنا لما قال كرمنا بني آدم، بني آدم جاءت على العموم، لم يقل كرمنا المسلمين فقط، وإنما قال كرمنا بني آدم. إذن القرآن يعلن أن سنة الله في البشر الاختلاف، والاختلاف يحتاج إلى التعايش السلمي، إلى قيم التسامح كما ذكرنا، والاعتدال نظرا لاختلافنا. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. هنا شوفوا كلمة لتعارفوا. التعارف يكون بالرحمة ويكون بالتسامح ويكون بالاعتدال. إذن ثم نجد كلمة يا أيها الناس عامة تشمل المؤمن وغيره، فكلهم إخوة في الإنسانية. هنا لابد أن نربي بناتنا ونساءنا على هذه الرحمة. كذلك
I'm sorry, Professor, you have one more minute. I'm sorry, you have one more minute to wrap up the session.
1 minute. Yes. سأقف عند بعض العناوين. من متطلبات الرحمة هنا ما يخضع لحقوق الإنسان: حرية المعتقد، الديانة السماوية مصدرها واحد، الأنبياء أخوة، التعامل مع أهل الكتاب، مجادلتهم بالتي هي أحسن، القرآن يحرم القتل ويمنع العنف. عندنا التطبيق العملي للرحمة هي رحمة عالمية، لا بد أن الدعوات تكون لها عالمية. فرأينا هنا أن الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام كان من المتسامحين. ويعني مع الأسف الوقت ضيق جدا، الوثيقة عندكم، أقف فقط عند حلف الفضول في مكة ووثيقة المدينة التي تعطي حقوق كل من يسكن في هذه المدينة المكرمة. إذن لو هناك المطلوب اليوم، المطلوب إثراء الحوار، عقد ندوات مثل هذه الندوة المهمة جدا، وأثبتت التجارب اليوم أن الإسلام هو دين التعايش، وأن الحروب التي نراها والنزاعات التي نراها وغيرها هي أمور يعني لا بد من استثمارها في صفة الرحمة. وكيف ذلك؟ لا بد من نشر هذا الدين وإصلاح البرامج في التعليم واستثمار وسائل الإعلام. المثقفون يدلون بدلوهم لنشر هذه الثقافة، التربية على القيم الأخلاقية، المعالجة التربوية والتعليمية ضرورية اليوم، إصلاح الفكر الديني ضروري اليوم. وشكرا لكم على ما قدمتم اليوم. بعد أنا أريد أن أذهب إلى بعض التوصيات. الرحمة والتسامح والاعتدال خلق وممارسة فردية وجماعية في الإسلام. الرحمة والتسامح والاعتدال قيم إنسانية تقتضي أن يقبلها الإنسان وتتطلب منا كيفية نشرها وكيفية العمل بها. الحقيقة نصف دقيقة لتجربتي في هذا المجال. تجربتي في هذا المجال حقيقة أنا لي كتاب قراءة نسوية للإسلام وضعت فيه ما رحمة الإسلام بالنساء ودورهن. لي كتاب الإنسان والحوار، الأنسنة والحوار والتعايش في الإسلام، وأثبتت فيه كيف أن الإسلام دين الرحمة ودين شمولي ودين عالمي. وآخر الكتب هذه هو إشكالية العنف ضد المرأة في الإسلام، دراسة تحليلية ونقدية بينت فيها أن الإسلام بريء من كل أنواع العنف وبريء من التطرف. وفي تونس مثلا لنا تجربة مهمة جدا في جامعة الزيتونة. هذه الجامعة أقدم جامعة في العالم، وهي أقدم جامعة تقوم على الإسلام الوسطي والمعتدل، وهي أقدم جامعة تقاوم التطرف البارحة وأمس واليوم. كذلك لي تجربة مع الاتحاد الوطني للمرأة، وهو منظمة كبيرة في مقاومة التطرف العنيف، ومع جمعية قادرات، ومع جمعيات عالمية، ومع جمعية النساء واليد. كلمة أخيرة، فدورنا اليوم أن نعزز انتشار الرحمة في الإسلام. وشكرا لكم والعفو.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your very comprehensive interpretation. I'm sorry to cut your presentation because we have limited time, but I really appreciate that you have written a lot of books, and I hope that your book can be translated into Bahasa as well as English, that later we can read the books very soon, I hope. Thank you, Professor Dr. Monjia. Later we'll have a Q&A after all the
شكرا. هي بسند الترجمة إلى إنجليزية بإذن الله.
شكرا جزيلا. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speaker and all participants, we will proceed to the third speaker that will be delivered by Senator Sehar Kamran from Pakistan. You have 7 until 10 minutes to deliver your presentation. And again, I'm so sorry that I have to remind you about the time. Okay, please, Senator Sehar, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Respected panelists, excellencies, dignitaries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. May peace be upon you all. Let me commence by extending felicitations to all. I'm honored to share my thoughts on a significant subject such as this. I'm confident that today's deliberations will help remove the misunderstandings often associated with women's role in Islam. I hope that the process initiated by the International NGO Forum on Indonesian Development in collaboration with Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah will continue with same zeal and vigor in the coming years. Ladies and gentlemen, Islam teaches compassion, kindness, and tolerance for all. Allah Almighty intended Islam to be mercy for all the worlds. It was not introduced to be mercy for only Muslims, but for the entire mankind. Throughout Quran and Hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has repeatedly emphasized on showing kindness to fellow human beings and has promised of great reward to help those in distress. Through the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has explained just how precious human life is by stating, whoever kills a soul, it is as if he had slain all of mankind, and whoever saves one, it is as if he had saved all of mankind. Ayat 532, Surah Al-Ma'idah. Dear colleagues, Islam became popular as a religion because it is a great equalizer. It does not believe in discrimination of any sort. Everyone is equal in the eyes of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No one is superior from the other because of their ethnicity, gender, or the color of their skin. Similarly, men and women hold an equal status before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are a lot of misconceptions regarding women's role and position in Islam. As a Muslim society, we need to dispel them. Women hold a significant position in a Muslim society and serve many important roles. At the micro level, they are the center of a Muslim household, and at a macro, they are important pillars for social cohesion. Any society which has a considerable female participation has a higher degree of social cohesion, which in turn promotes economic growth, good governance, and helps in the formulation of an inclusive, harmonious society. Ladies and gentlemen, rather than talking about the certain organizations, I would like to talk about my country, Pakistan, and wish to highlight the role of women in supporting education, health, economic and social development, and in promoting peace and countering violent extremism. Pakistan is a country in which women have played a pivotal role since its creation. The country has produced generations of such great women. They have served and continue to serve through multiple strategic roles in Pakistan. And despite difficulties, they have made their mark in the world as mothers, homemakers, teachers, bankers, soldiers, scientists, athletes, and fighter pilots. They have been excelling in every field, in all walks of life, alongside their male counterparts, be it in the field as a farmer or a laborer, or in the highest echelon of power. Pakistan has produced exemplary women who became a symbol of courage and strength to defeat violent ideologies. The mother of our nation, the Honorable Mohtarma Fatima Jinnah, not only stood alongside her brother Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, but also successfully led the independence campaign in her own right. The great leader Shaheed Mohtarma Benazir Bhutto is one such example. She was a daughter, wife, mother, the first elected woman prime minister of the Muslim world, and twice elected youngest and the only female prime minister of the country. Honorable Benazir Bhutto challenged extremism and terrorism by promoting strategies for peace to help Pakistan become a prosperous and a progressive country. She challenged traditional norms and emerged victorious in the face of great adversity. She laid her life, she was shot dead, she was killed while she challenged the terrorists, but she has made her mark, which will always be remembered. Malala Yousafzai, the youngest ever Nobel Prize laureate and the girl known all over the world for her human rights advocacy for education and for women, is another such case in point. Likewise, the first ever Lieutenant General of Pakistan, Lieutenant General Nigar Johar, is currently serving as the Colonel Commandant of our Army Medical Corps. She is the first ever woman in the country's history to hold this position. Recently, Justice Aisha Malik became the first woman Supreme Court judge of Pakistan. Some other notable names who have emerged out of Pakistan in the last few years include Samina Beg. She is the first Pakistani woman to climb Everest and 7 summits. Namira Salim, first Pakistani astronaut, first Pakistani to have reached both the North Pole in April 2007 and the South Pole in January 2008. Dr. Nargis Mawalwala, astrophysicist known for her role in the first observation of gravitational waves, and also the brave flying officer Maryam Mukhtar. I would also like to mention here Bilqis Eidi, a renowned philanthropist who devoted her life to serve humanity. Dear colleagues, in today's time and age, it is significant that we all must do our bit to support and encourage more women to grow and feel empowered. In this regard, education is the most effective medium to empower women. Islam gives great importance towards attaining knowledge irrespective of gender discrimination. It is important to remember that Iqra, meaning read, was the first word of the Holy Quran revealed to the Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As our beloved Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad, may peace be upon him, said, acquisition of knowledge is binding on all Muslims, male and female. Education equips individuals with tools to not only distinguish between what is right and wrong, but also enables them to be financially independent. As women become educated, they also gain financial independence and hence empowered to take their own decisions independently. Ladies and gentlemen, women can play a frontline role in the pursuit of peace, prosperity, stability, and development of the country if given the opportunity. For this purpose, prioritizing engagement with women at the grassroots level is a must. In order for them to productively contribute to a country's development, their capacity building and ensuring their rights is essential. It is essential that we must remove misconceptions regarding women's role in the society. We must play our role to help empower them instead of cutting their wings and repressing them. I would like to conclude my speech with the wise words by the founder of our nation, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who firmly believed in gender equality and empowerment of women, as he said, and I quote, "No nation can rise to the height of glory unless your women are side by side with you. We are victims of evil customs. It is a crime against humanity that our women are shut up within the four walls of the houses as prisoners. There is no sanction anywhere for the deplorable condition in which our women have to live." Unquote. I thank you all and wish the organizers the best of success in the work they are doing with the success of today's seminar. I'm confident we will see some very positive developments coming out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Sehar Kamran, for your very insightful presentation that you mentioned some exemplary women of Pakistan that internationally known, such as Honorable Benazir Bhutto, Malala Yousafzai, as well as other women leaders of Pakistan, and we are very proud of them. So thank you very much for that. Hopefully later we can continue the discussion in the Q&A session. Okay, since we are running the time, I would call the fourth speaker, Professor Dr. Alimatul Qibtiyah. From she will represent the women leader from Muhammadiyah of Indonesia. So please, Professor Dr. Alimatul Qibtiyah, you also have like 7 until 10 minutes to present your presentation. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Riri. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much. I'm so honored to be here as part of the presenter in this great event. And first of all, the honorable speaker, ambassador of Pakistan to Indonesia, Mr. Muhammad Hassan, and all speakers and distinguished guests from all over the world, particularly from Indonesia, Malaysia, Tunisia, and Pakistan, and the committee in FIT, including also from Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama members, and all participants here. Okay, today I'm going to present the experience from Aisyah, one of the biggest Muslimah organization in Indonesia, and the title is the strategic role of Muslimah in strengthening and expanding the Islamic practices of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin. Okay, maybe just skip our CV. There are three things that I'm going to present. Please skip. Okay, first of all, problems faced by Indonesian women. And the second one, Islam is Rahmatan lil Alamin, including for women. And the third one is Muslimah effort and achievement in overcoming the Islamic practices on gender issues. Okay, now for the problem, this is number that, for example, okay, I think this is the example of the problem in at university. Yeah, for example, for male professor, that's still 4 times for the number of male professor than a female professor. So there is a problem in academic level that less number for women professor. Next, and this is the leadership, yeah, the leader in the higher education as well. So if we look at the data, is around 15 to 20%, the female leader at higher education. Next, and the other problem is violence against women. Yeah, there are still very high level the percentage of the violence against women. If we look at the number, for example, last year, the increasing number around 920%, yeah, relating to the online gender-based violence. Next, this is the sexual violence cases are the highest in the public domain. And if we look at the data, rapes is also very significant number, yeah, about the cases. Next. And this is blaming the victim and gender stereotype. This research is from INFIT, yeah, which is, I just want to highlight the one that I put the red one, which is there is blaming the victim because women are, if you look at that one, sorry, then it's very tiny, that rape is because of how the women wear their clothes. This is around 70%. They blame to the victim because of the rape, for example. This is the number that I think is very significant, that our society is still blaming the victim when sexual violence happens. Next. And the problematic role of women in domestic, public, and in ritual. As we know, in domestic level, there is excessive burden. Female is believed to be in charge of care and household chores, and also undervalued because it's the economic. Sometimes the powerful of money, the measure is always money. So sometimes the role of domestic women is undervalued. And also in public, there is negative labeling. A source of fitnah, for example, is still happening. And also doubtful that about her ability to be a leader. And little summary, because it's not a breadwinner. In ritual, religious figures are still identical with men. And also there is question and blame if women lead ritual event. Next. So this is the whole problem. But how Islam deal with this problem? We believe that Islam is Rahmatan lil Alamin, including for women. Next. So particularly, there are 3 root causes of gender inequality, which is patriarchal culture, misogynic religious interpretation, and gender-biased policies that lead to the gender inequality, such as negative stereotypes, subordination, marginalization, multiple burden, and violence. Next. Okay, Islam Rahmatan lil Alamin, as presented by other speaker previously, that we believe Islam is Rahmatan lil Alamin. One hadith said that someday the sahabat of the Prophet Muhammad asked to the Prophet that, the Prophet Muhammad, please pray for the evil of the musyrikin. And then he replied that, I was not sent to be a curse, but I was sent only to be a mercy. And also the Umar bin Khattab, he mentioned that at first we did not consider women is respectful and important. But when Islam came and God mentioned them, we just realized that women also have autonomous right, which we cannot longer intervene. Next. Okay, this is the principle of gender equality in Islam, yeah, which is that all human beings as servant to God, not servant to other human creature, and also about the Khalifah to fil art, and the same men and women was created from the same essence, and also they have the same quality of temptation, and men and women also has responsible what they have done in the world. Next. Okay, this is the example of contentious gender issues in Islam. For example, about women participation in public, private, and political life, and also violence against women, status of women property right, and right of custody to children, and the right to bodily integrity. Okay, I will quick here go. This is just the example, and then please next. Yeah, next. Yeah, this is the equal women participation in private, public, and political life, which is based on the Bayani and also Burhani that prove that women have equal right in the private, public, and political life. This is that we can also consider to material for our discussion. Next. And okay, women be good and effective leader. There are many verses are also example, and also there are experience that women also to be a good and effective leader. Next. Violence against women is prohibited in Islam. Of course, we already know that there are Islam Rahmatan lil Alamin is not tolerant women get a violence. Yeah. Next. Sexual violence is prohibited in Islam. Okay, go. Next. Equal status of women's property right. There are a number of resources that we can discuss about that equal rights of women in property. Next. Okay, and equal right on inheritance. Yeah, if we use the progressive interpretation, men and women have equal right for inheritance. Next. For the custody of children as well. Yeah. So how that men and women, father and mother, have the same responsibility to taking care of the children. Next. And this is also the nasab, yeah, bilateral kinship is also known in the Islamic teaching. Next. And women can be wali, guardian as well, as we know that from the fiqh, that some scholar also allow women to be a wali. Next. Okay, the right of bodily integrity. This is the discussion about the hijab. Next, this debate about the hijab. There are many interpretation. At least there are 3 interpretation of the hijab. Next. Okay, now next. Hello.
Yeah, please next.
Okay, now. Okay, just go. I'm going to the third part because it's time.
Yeah, but Alim, you still have like 3 minutes, around
Okay.
3 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the achievement. Please go ahead. Next. Okay, yeah. So the Muslimah effort and achievement and in overcoming the Islamic practice on gender issue based on the Aisyah experience. Okay, what we have done so far from Aisyah. Please next. Strengthening an egalitarian culture and moderate progressive interpretation of religion. From our discussion before that there are many issues, and then we strengthening the moderate and progressive interpretation. And also the second one, recognizing the diversity of women's experience. And the third one, we using silent revolution and mastering Bayani, Burhani, and Irfani on women issues, and formal and informal approaches. This is the one that Aisyah usually done in their da'wah. Next. Okay, so recognizing the diversity of women experience. We can compare, if we look at the rainbow compared to look at the zebra cross, I think we will feel happy if we look at the rainbow compared to looking for zebra cross. So how the diversity, which is like rainbow, yeah. So it will recognize many experiences from women. Next. And this is the one that I thought that we have to mastering Bayani, Burhani, and Irfani. Bayani is relating to the text, comprehensive reading, usually we use hermeneutic, and also understanding the asbabul nuzul, asbabul wurud, using historical approach, and Burhani, which talking about the data, diversity of women experience, and science and research. And the last one is Irfani, considering spiritual wisdom and also humanity. This approach also used by Muhammadiyah Aisyah in their fatwa. And also we understand the dialogue between text and context. Yeah, there is Al-Quran hadith and there is interpretation, and we have dialogue. Yeah, we can access directly to the text, but also we consider the past scholars, how they understand the religious text. So we can dialogue between text and context. Next. And this is learning from the training that Aisyah done in several provinces. This is something that very controversy. We have pre and post test. I only pick one controversy issue, which is relating to women imam for adult men. And surprisingly, from our training in Aisyah, that for the pre-test, for example, in Lampung, nobody choose that women can be a leader of Iman for adult men. But in post-test, we got 42%. In Maluku as well, increased to 26%. In East Java, from 10% to 36%. And in Kalimantan Selatan, for example, yeah, it's very tiny around 3%, but increase into 9%. So this is just the example that what we have done to promote egalitarian and moderate and progressive interpretation, which is if we try to dakwah intensively and the result is there. Yeah, this is we call madrasah perempuan berkemajuan, ya, MPB. This is part of the main program in LPPA. LPPA is Lembaga Penelitian dan Pengembangan Aisyah, which is like a research development in Aisyah organization. And we have several programs, including in terms of dakwah for promoting moderate and progressive interpretation. I think that's all. My presentation is already done for 7 and 8 minutes in my time. So thank you very much, Mbak Riri, and we will have a great discussion later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Alim, for a very enlightening presentation about the role of Aisyah, a women being of Muhammadiyah. I really like the approaches that have been used. Using like Bayani, Burhani, and Irfani. I think it's very interesting to be discussed later in the Q&A session. Well, we will proceed to the last speaker that will be delivered by our sister Fatima Az-Zahra binti Syed Hussein, PhD. She is from the International Islamic University of Malaysia. Please, Sir Fatima, it's now your turn. You have like 7 until 10 minutes, just as other speaker. The time is yours.
Terima kasih Mbak Riri. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To the organizers, thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here. His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Hassan, Ambassador of Pakistan to Indonesia, esteemed colleagues, speakers. I feel very humbled to be here after listening to all the speakers' presentation. We've seen a lot of different diverse take on the issues and roles of women in addressing Rahmatan lil Alamin, or delivering and advancing the agenda of Rahmatan lil Alamin. My presentation, I think, will be narrowing it down and showing some examples or example of what my team and I have done, or our movement have done in one aspect in order to address issues of women and gender. I would like to request the organizers to present my slides, please. Okay, next, please. I think Professor Dr. Alimato has done a really great job just now presenting all of the details and data of the issues relating to the context of Indonesia. And I think I saw a lot of similarities as well in Malaysia. Next slide, please. So I think everybody knows that Malaysia is a heterogeneous society, and like many societies today, we are made of multi-ethnic groups, multi-religious groups, and also people coming from different socioeconomic levels and education level. And because of the nature of the development or progress in the world, Malaysia now has also groups or different divides between the rural and urban. And I think this may be similar as well to Indonesia, to Pakistan, to Tunisia. So we're not just looking at people of diverse religion, diverse ethnicities, but also those socio-economic diversity of people that are coming together as a nation. So when we're talking about Rahmatan and Alamin and addressing social issues, we have to consider the differences and the intersectionalities within our population and how we can address these issues. Next, please. So we know that there are different trends that are affecting women issues, in particular in Malaysia, similar to what Dr. Alimato was sharing just now. When we saw the gender gap report from 2021, Malaysia was ranked quite low, actually at 112 in 156. And there were several issues, particularly relating to politics and leadership for women. But Malaysia ranked very highly in health and education, but not so in economics and similar issues relating to care work, relating to undervaluing of care work. But I want to highlight something. Sometimes we see these numbers, right? We see the data in terms of progress, but there are underlying issues, just like when we talk about issues of patriarchy, issues of misogynistic interpretations of the text and things like that. We have to also understand how these impact the different markers and categories that are being measured. So I want to give an example, and I want to share some of the work that we've done and one of the issues that we've looked at. And I have yet to see a lot of work on this in Indonesia, in Pakistan, in Tunisia. But if there are works about this issue and there are movements to address this issue, please do contact me after, and I'm really interested to find out. Next, please. So the issue that I want to highlight is the issue of period poverty. So, or we call it menstrual poverty. So period poverty is actually a context or a situation when people cannot manage their menstruation in a safe and healthy way, right? But it is a colloquial term that we use, period poverty. And we want to address this issue to talk about how we can address period poverty and see the implications of period poverty in all the different aspects just now. Just to give a brief idea about what period poverty is. So as I said just now, when somebody or when a menstruating person cannot manage their menstruation, we call it period poverty. So what are the things that we need to look at when we talk about menstrual health? Knowledge, meaning understanding of what menstruation is, what period is, understanding about menstrual cycle, and then they also need materials, right? Period products like sanitary pads or menstrual cups or reusable, disposable sanitary pads. And then we also have facilities having toilets, having clean water, disposal management, and then health services. If something is wrong with them or they're in pain, do they know where to go, who to get help from, right? And having these resources available to them. And then also having positive, respectful environment that is free from stigma and psychological distress. So meaning there's no taboos, or there's very little taboo around the society around issues relating to period. Just like as I'm mentioning about period and menstruation here, some of us may understand what I'm referring to when we're talking about stigma and how society views menstruation and how this affects women's life. And then we talk also about inclusivity, the ability for women and girls to manage our menstruation with dignity, that we're not discriminated because we have menstruation, that we're not put into a different place, we're not restricted from getting education, or we're not being elected to be leaders because we are considered as emotional, for example, because we have menstruation. So inclusivity is also important. I would like to give a picture of period poverty and how we can see different cases and how diverse the issue can be. In very severe cases, for example, in really remote areas, we find that everything is missing, right? Girls and women may be severely affected in all areas. They might not have a clear understanding of what menstruation is, menstrual cycle is. They don't have access to clean water, or they don't have access to toilets, and then they also don't have access to the products, meaning that they might be in condition of poverty, economic poverty, where they don't have access to either a disposable sanitary pad or a reusable sanitary pad, any product that's safe and healthy and allows them to go out to go to school. And because of that, a lot of young girls are taken out of school because the parents have to make the difficult choice to choose whether to send the girls to school or to and pay for the sanitary pads, or to keep them at home, right? And because of the lack of understanding and knowledge about menstruation across the generation as well, sometimes girls are married off early. Then we have issues of child marriage as well in this case that restricts the growth of women and children, and also may have or can cause harm in terms of their health and their safety. And then we also have different issues relating to health and safety. We know that some of the girls who are in very rural and remote areas don't have anything to manage themselves. So they also feel that, for example, the blood or the menstrual blood is dirty and it's shameful. So there's a lot of also issues relating to mental health. That's an example in rural, remote areas. Okay, we go to like urban areas, right? We have a lot of developing cities, and there's a lot of development in the city to ensure that there is facilities. For example, we have clean water in the city. Life is much better in the city. Girls go to school, high rates of education, but there are other issues that restricts girls and women's ability to manage their menstruation. So for example, we know that among the urban poor, which is a rising number, and we see this with development as well, and further impacted by the pandemic, right? So because of the pandemic, there's a lot more people who have lost their jobs, who have lost their source of income. So in the last 2 years, we've seen a rising case of those who can no longer afford to buy sanitary pads even. So this means that girls and women may be restricted from going to school or from going to work. So even though they have access to facilities and education, they might not still have access to the sanitary pad. But the underlying issue that exists is also the issue of taboo and stigma around menstruation. Right, so there's a lot of misunderstanding about what menstruation is. What is it? Is it something that's supposed to be concealed, or is it something that's supposed to be embarrassing? Because we know that women and girls make up almost half of the population of the world. Right, in our different countries, they make up a slightly different number, but it will almost always be half of the population. And women and girls experience menstruation for about 30 or so years of our lives, 30 to 40 years of our lives. And it's not something we can stop generally, right? It's something that happens on a monthly basis. So this is something that affects women's lives. But largely, the issue of menstruation is not something we've discussed. And it's not something that we talk about because of taboo. And this taboo is sometimes embedded within our culture and within our social groups as well. So the context is important. And because we conceal the issue, then we don't get to help the people who need help, and we don't get to address the issue at policy level. Next, please. So what we've done in the last 2 years since 2019 is we are under Peduli Merah. Peduli Merah means to care about the color red. It's just symbolic to menstruation. So what we've done is we want to raise awareness. Prior to 2019, we barely see any reports of issues relating to period poverty. So given the explanation that I've given you about what period poverty is, I think you can realize how big the problem is everywhere, not just in Malaysia, not just in developed countries where they have addressed period poverty like Scotland, New Zealand, where they've given out free sanitary pads, right? Even in a lot of different countries, we can understand that period poverty is a real issue that affects a lot more women and girls than we care to realize. So what we started off doing is raising awareness, and that was a big part of the first year of our work, right? To raise awareness, we conducted different talks outside, and we also did, and then we went into the pandemic, so we had to move the talks to online platforms. And interestingly, we saw that the conversations were taken up mostly by youth groups, and particularly youth groups including Muslims. So they're not particularly Islamic groups, but Muslim women and Muslim men who care about the issue of women and realizing how important the ability to manage our menstruation is, because it is a basic human right. And the collaboration between the different units within our societies is, I think, one of the key important things for us to do in addressing issues relating to women and in highlighting Rahmatan lil Alamin, right? We have to work together. We cannot just work in our own areas. As an academic, I can stay in my office, right, write a journal article or go to a conference, but it's hard for us to see change in our society if we don't work with others. So we managed to work with different NGOs, and we managed to set up a platform, which is our Peduli Merah. And from there, we worked with media, and we saw a spike in reporting about period poverty. And that really created a massive boom in terms of interest from the society about the work that we're doing, about the issue of period poverty itself. So I'm sharing some of the news articles. So from having almost zero reports on period poverty, we saw a spike from 2020, and then with the pandemic, we saw even more. And we managed to engage with MAWIB, or our Islamic religious body in Malaysia, which is under the government, who gives out like zakat and baitul mal. And we managed to talk to the former Minister of Religious Affairs, who helped us also to address the issue. So you can see, like, it's the picture's not very clear, but the second picture is him. That's not just something that, you know, that is addresses also the issue of male participation and support in addressing issues of menstruation. So his role as a leader, showing that he cares and showing that this is not something for us to be ashamed of. We have to show that we care about our women and that this is a basic right for us to address. So
2 minutes lagi, sister. 2 more minutes.
Thank you so much, Maridi. Okay, just finishing up. So we kept on going with our awareness and working alongside a lot of different bodies and different groups to address the issue of period poverty in Malaysia. And we saw an amazing change in the kinds of things that were happening on the ground, but we had not heard yet what was happening at the policy level in terms of policy change. But then in 2021, in late 2021, next slide, please. Finally, the government released in budget for 2022 that 130,000 teenage girls were going to receive free monthly personal hygiene kits. So they had taken, or the government now takes it seriously and realizes the implications of women and girls not being able to manage menstruation. So we saw a very impactful situation. The other one, recently Malaysia, like some of the other Southeast Asian countries, were affected by floods, right, in December in 2021. And for the first time, most of the NGO realized the importance of menstruation for those who were relocated. So most of the NGOs and the relocation centers called out for donation of sanitary pads and disposable panties for women and girls who are in reallocation centers. So that was a big, I suppose, improvement and change. And I want to highlight that sometimes we think about big issues, right? But we don't realize the issues that affect the day-to-day lives of women and girls. And this has a real impact. And as women, we know how important it is for us to be able to manage our menstruation in a safe and healthy and dignified way. And these are issues that are pertinent for us to address in order to highlight, because it affects the education of girls, it affects the dignity of women, it affects the ability for women to participate in social and political spaces. So I hope that the example that I've given today is something that can give us a different view of Rahmatan lil Alamin. You know, maybe it's a small example, very specific to this particular issue, but I think it's an example of how we can deliver Rahmatan lil Alamin. Inshallah, may Allah accept all our good deeds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sister Fatima. I would agree with you that we also have to address the women's problem, like day-to-day problem of women and girls that we are facing. And one of the problem that's still until now is about, you call it poverty period. I just heard this term basically. Usually in Indonesia we call it like menstrual taboo, yeah, in which that during the menstruation actually women have kind of discrimination as well as seclusion in terms of health, education, and other social life. Thank you very much for reminding us about this very, very important issue, especially about the right of reproductive health for women, and how actually Islam, as the blessing for the universe, should also mainstream in this principle of the protection of women's health. Thank you very much for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, after all the speakers have presented their presentation, the experience from Indonesia that represented by Fatayat Nahdlatul Ulama as well as Aisyah Muhammadiyah. We also heard about the experience of Pakistan, women of Pakistan, and also Tunisia as well as Malaysia. I believe that you have like some question for the speakers. I see some question already in the chat, in the Q&A features, and I will read it one by one. And I'm sorry that because of the time constraint, I don't give you a specific time to open your mic to drop your question. So I will just read it. Okay, let me see. Okay. Yes, we have some question from Mushab Muqaddas to Professor Dr. Munjia. This is I will read it in Bahasa, so please, Ginanjar, please translate into Arabic to Professor Munjia. But actually there are some Arabic translation already ya. So pertanyaannya adalah untuk Profesor Munjia dari Azaytuna, Tunisia, kenapa milisi ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, di Suriah banyak berasal dari Tunis dan tidak sedikit dari kalangan perempuan. Bahkan salah satu faksi di ISIS yaitu Al-Hazimi adalah faksi yang paling radikal dan mereka berasal dari Tunisia. Jadi Mas Ginanjar, apakah bisa diulangi di translation mungkin ke bahasa Arab sehingga Profesor Munjia bisa langsung meresponnya? Boleh seperti itu? Oke, sorry, mungkin karena agak teknikal saya tidak
ممكن أجيب؟
Yep. So Professor Munjia,
أقدم الجواب؟
Yep. Okay, please, you can answer this question first.
شكرا مسحب مقدس. أنت ذكرت أن الكثير من التونسيين ذهبوا إلى القتال في سوريا. أولا ذهبوا إلى سوريا والعراق. أنت استمعت إلى السؤال. أريد أن أجيب. أولا، أنت لما تقول كثير هذا فيه تجني على التونسيين. صحيح هناك مثلهم مثل غيرهم، فالذين ذهبوا إلى القتال في سوريا وفي العراق من العالم كله، من لندن، من أمريكا، من فرنسا، من سائر الدول العربية، وهي كانت موجة انتشر فيها التطرف العنيف. وللتطرف العنيف عدة أسباب، منها أسباب الفقر، منها أسباب الجهل، منها أسباب سد منافذ الإسلام إلى غير ذلك. ولذا التهمة لا تكون فقط للذين ذهبوا من تونس. أما قولك هناك عدة منظمات إرهابية في تونس، هذا غير صحيح. ليس هناك منظمات إرهابية في تونس، هناك فكر متطرف. هذا الفكر المتطرف موجود كما هو موجود في ماليزيا، في أندونيسيا، في باكستان، في أفغانستان، في العالم كله. ولكن جامعة الزيتونة في هذا المجال واقفة بالمرصاد، تقاوم هذا التطرف بالفكر وبالسلوك. كذلك المرأة في تونس لها دور كبير جدا في مقاومة هذا التطرف، لأننا لاحظنا أن الفقر بين النساء هو الذي قد يجر أبنائهم إلى التطرف العنيف، وقد يجرهم هم إلى التطرف العنيف. كذلك جهلهم بتعاليم الإسلام السمحة وبالرحمة وبالتعايش وبالحرية الدينية وغير ذلك من مبادئ الإسلام التي يتعايش فيه الجميع. مثلا نحن في تونس لنا منظمة أندى للعالم العربي. هذه المنظمة تقدم قروض للنساء الفقيرات وتخرجهن من الفقر، فيقومن بمشاريع. هذه المشاريع توفر لهن العيش ولأطفالهن ولنسائهن. كذلك تقوم بحصص توعوية. أنا كأستاذة في هذا المجال على الميدان قابلت أكثر من 10,000 امرأة في هذه المنظمة، ووعيناهن ضد التطرف وكيف يحمين بناتهن وأبنائهن من هذا العنف. لأنه القضية لابد أن تكون استقلالية مادية وفكر متنور وتوعية متواصلة وعمل ميداني. وهنا أشكر المتدخلات التي تحدثنا عن العمل الواقعي. نحن لابد أن نجمع بين المقالات والكتب والندوات العلمية وبين العمل الميداني. فلنا حلقات ولنا لقاءات مع النساء منذ 2011 إلى حد اليوم، إلى حد البارحة. أنا الآن سأكمل معكم الملتقى وسأتصل سأذهب إلى مجموعة من النساء لأدربهن على الحوار وسط العائلة وعلى القيادية، أن كيف تكون المرأة قائدة، وعلى التعايش والسلمي في المجتمع وفي المجتمعات. إذن هناك عمل متواصل ولست الوحيدة التي أقوم بهذا. فهناك عدد كبير من النساء التونسيين ومن الرجال التونسيين الذين يسيرون على نهج أهل السنة والجماعة التي تقوم على الاعتدال. إذن ابني سؤالك هذا، شكرا على السؤال وشكرا على العناية. لا ننكر أن هناك مجموعة معناتها ناس متطرفون، تطرف عنيف، ولكن هذه ليست موجة كبيرة في تونس، وليست هناك منظمة في تونس. فنحن كل يقوم بدوره: التوعية العلمية، التوعية الفكرية، التعليم الديني المتطور. وجامعة الزيتونة تعلمون أن هذه أول جامعة في العالم وهي قائمة، ولكم أبناء عندنا طلبة أندونيسيين هم سفراء لتونس، ينقلون مناهج التعليم في جامعة الزيتونة. من أهمها مقارنة الأديان، من أهمها التفسير. وهنا قبل أن أنهي الجواب أريد أن أقول يفضل أن يخرج هذا الملتقى الرائع جدا بفكرة، هي أن تجتمع النساء المختصات في الحقل الديني ويفسرن الآيات والأحاديث التي فسرها الرجال ضد حقوق المرأة وتفسير تمييزي. فلا بد أن تأخذ المرأة مقود العلم الديني وتنشر هذا العلم، لأن حق المرأة في الدين، حقها في التعليم، حقها في السياسة، حقها في الاقتصاد، حقها في كل مجالات الحياة مكفول بالإسلام. ولكن مع الأسف بعض المفسرين وبعض الفقهاء حجبوا هذا الحق، والذي يؤلمني أن اليوم كذلك هناك مجموعة تريد أن تخاطب المرأة خطاب التمييز وخطاب الكراهية وخطاب الإقصاء من الفضاء العام. شكرا لكم.
Thank you very much for very comprehensive answer. I really like the explanation of Professor Monzia in dealing with the question. And the next question, let me proceed to the next question from Wahyono Saputra. His question is directed to Ibu Anggia. First is there a special economic program from Fatayat NU Autonomous Body related to women empowerment and economic improvement in the new normal? New normal mean this time after the pandemic, sorry. And the second is, how does Fatayat NU, its role and strategy to work and synergy with the village and also rural government? Please, Ibu Anggia, your time to respond the question from Wahyono Saputra. Mbak Anggi? Mbak Anggi, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So I'm sorry, what is it, the question?
The question is, first, is there a special program, economic program from Fatayat NU as autonomous body related to women's empowerment and economic improvement in this new normal situation? And the second is, how does Fatayat NU's role and strategy to work with the village and also rural government?
Okay.
The question
yes,
is from Wahyono Saputra. Please, Mbak Anggi.
Yeah, thank you. First, about the economic program, yes, we are. We during the pandemic era, we have the Madrasah Economic Fatayat Nahdlatul Ulama. So this is just on like a training, but the series of training, and then the facilitator is the successful entrepreneur, and also the participants is the member of Fatayat and also out of Fatayat, but they already has just like initiative economic activity, just like they have just catering, and then they have also fashion and others, and this is very useful. I think that after that the training, they have just like alumnus, and then they have also like a forum, and then they strengthen each other and sharing together. And the pandemic now is dealing with the social media, dealing with the marketplace is the important thing. So we have just like encourage the Fatayat and member to more detail, more ikhtiar to the kind of economic activities. And yes, some of them already very succeed. Just like I'm now in a parliament. One of them also the food also used by the one commission as a snack or as a lunch. This is very I think this is very good improvement, and others of course. And the second is about, I'm sorry, the second question is about what? Mbak Riri?
Question
Sorry.
is how Fatayat NU work with the village and also the rural government, especially in the economic improvement.
Oh yes, yeah. Now in Indonesia we very strong in the very rural government, especially in a village government, and also we work together with the government in the village, especially for women. We call it BUMDes. This is the economic unit in a village, and we promote the Fatayat take a part very big role in that areas. That's why this is also your subject, Mbak Riri's subject also, when we have pengarus utamaan perempuan penggerak pengarus utamaan gender in the every level. I mean, not only in the national level but also in the village level. So when we're talking about the economic, means that the economic is for women as well. I think that's the explanation, Mbak Riri.
Thank you very much, Mbak Anggi, for your response.
Sama-sama, Mbak. Yeah.
Okay, I will proceed to the third question. It's directed to Professor Alamin from Mbak Uswatun Hasanah, how to overcome Islamic teaching with the Javanese culture, especially about the role of women in the domestic area. Please, Mbak Alamin, times to respond.
Okay, thank you very much, Mbak Uswa Hasanah. So I think, as I said before, that we have to pick up the moderate and progressive interpretation and egalitarian culture. So, for example, in Javanese culture, there is word like the couple is garwo, sigaraneng nyowo, a half of the soul. It means if we look at our partner as a half of the soul, we will not let her to be what is it? Tired. Yeah, we must help her to be happy. So don't let her to work alone for their domestic tasks and also for the caring of the kids. So that's why we try to pick up the egalitarian culture, for example, by emphasizing the philosophical Java, for example, is garwo, sigaraneng nyowong. Sigaraneng nyowo, it means that our partner is a half of our soul. This is the first one. Then second one, we can interpret our Islamic religious text using a moderate and progressive interpretation, which is, for example, in terms of the responsibility for educate children in the Al-Quran, it is in Surah Luqman, yeah. Wa idh qala Luqmanu libnihi wa huwa ya'iduhu ya bunayya la tusyrik billah inna syirka la dzulmun adzim. So this for Luqman is not only for women. And also, kullu mauludin yuladu alal fitra. This everybody is fitra when they was born, but then their parent will educate them to be whatever. Yeah. So it means that it's not only the responsibility of a mother or women, but educate the children is also father's responsibility. And in the level of Burhani level, yeah, sharing domestic tasks is a must, is needed right now. Why? Because the access of women in education is more and more, and the access to work is also getting better. So it means that now, for example, in Indonesian cases, many universities, they have a the best female graduation. Yeah, not from male students, but from female students. And according to the data from the National civil servant in Indonesia, that since 2018, the civil servant in Indonesia mostly women. Yeah, so because of accessing education is getting better, then accessing to the economic is also getting better. It means that sharing domestic tasks is needed between men and women, between husband and wife, because now the society is getting to the not communal culture, but getting to the individual culture. It means to find grandma, grandpa to be with us is very difficult. Yeah, so also right now we did research just last year about the trend of the house husband, trend bapak rumah tangga. So not housewife, tapi house husband. Yeah, in Indonesia during the 30 years, yeah, the increasing number of the house husband is 110%. And in the family with the house husband, which is what I mean with the house husband is the husband who have the domestic task and also has responsibility for the educate children, is around 40%. The wife has more income than the husband. So it means there is social changing. Yeah, there is social changing in our community. So if our interpretation still textual interpretation, yeah, still literal interpretation, still misogynic culture, it means it will it doesn't work. Yeah, it will not work for the happily for the Rahmatan lil Alamin. So no choice. If we are going to have Rahmatan lil Alamin, try to pick the egalitarian culture and moderate and progressive interpretation. So try to combine the culture and also the Islamic value with support to the Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin, including for all the whole family. I think that's all, Mbak Riri.
Thank you very much, Prof. Alim, for your question. Since we have no more question, I would like to raise some issue to the speakers from Malaysia and from Pakistan, as well, if I may, to Ambassador Muhammad Hassan. If you like to respond, we would happy to hear that. So to Ambassador Muhammad Hassan, thank you very much that you are still with us until now. Yeah, so I'm interested in pressing about the challenge that you mentioned about some gender discrimination and also violence that's still rampant in the Muslim world, about the Islamophobia that increasing in the world, as well as the increasing of radical groups that trap Muslim community to some extent. So do you think do you have some ideas or thought that we can in a concrete way, how like the Indonesia, Malaysia, Tunisia, and also Pakistan can work together to foster the women's human rights, especially in the context of Islamic teaching? Please, Ambassador, I'm sorry that I proposed those questions for you.
Thank you very much, Dam. And I'm really highly impressed with the speeches which was made, the presentation which were made by the panelists in the seminar, and I'm really highly educated about it. Well, the question which you have posed to me, it has basically it has two parts. One part is the mixing of culture and religion in the Islamic countries. For example, some of the cultures, some of the un-Islamic practices which are being practiced by us, the Muslim countries, because of our past cultures. And the second part is, what's going on in the world about the Islamophobia around the world, where in countries where Muslims are in minority. I'll first come on to our own part of the problem. Majority of the Muslim countries, which we say the member of the OIC, we are basically Muslim majority countries. And there are different cultures, different traditions, and that is completely different from others. Let me talk about Pakistan, Indonesia, and Malaysia. We all are here in Asia. Basically, we inherited cultures which was basically from the Hindu culture, some from even the past other practices, and now it has come into our culture as being an Islamic country. I'll talk about Pakistan. There is a tradition in some part of Pakistan, not in all part of Pakistan, which is called wani. Wani means, to trade women in order to settle feuds between two tribes. It's a tribal culture, and it's against Islam, and it's against our constitution and our law. But this is still being practiced in some places, and law enforcing agencies get hold of them and then punish them, but it is still prevalent there. So for these sort of things, I think we all Islamic countries have to see and purge those un-Islamic cultures from our own society. Nobody else is going to do that. We have to do it by ourselves. But for the other part, for the Islamophobia and where the targeting Muslim minorities in other countries where Muslims are in minority, I think this is the collective responsibility of all the Muslim countries, especially the members of the OIC. And being the OIC has given this platform to work against this thing. And I mentioned in my message that this can be done in two ways: by giving them the true, educating them about the true teachings of Islam, telling them, because most of them are ignorant. And secondly, trying to force them, in fact, to abide by the international conventions on human rights, of which we all are party to. And so I think there is no second word in that. OIC already has a platform. They have established a monitoring mechanism there, and they publishes report about all these things. UN human rights organization, independent human rights organizations, like Genocide Watch, they are warning the humanity about these issues. So I think here we have the responsibility, all Muslim countries, especially the bigger Muslim countries like we are here, Tunisia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, and others. I think we need to work closely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Muhammad Hassan, for a very precise answer to what the issue that I've raised. Thank you very much for your presentation and also your patience during this panel session. So I have question also to that raised to Sister Fatima from Malaysia. Yeah? Even though you are talking in a very specific issue about women's health, especially in the context of poverty period, do you think do you find like any challenges, especially or barrier, especially from the religious group in advancing those women reproductive health in Malaysia?
Thank you very much, Mbak Riri. I would like to also take some points from His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Hassan just now when he talked about inheriting cultures, right? And how this sometimes get mixed up into what we understand as Islamic, but it's not really what we have revealed or what we can interpret that is correct from our religion and from our religious texts. So we do have several issues that are embedded within the Muslim community, for example, or we have responses from Muslim groups and individuals about how we are approaching the issue of period poverty. Because my presentation was very short, I wasn't able to discuss this just now. So thank you for the question. So, for example, like I said just now, the issue of menstruation or period itself is very taboo, right? And especially more taboo within the Muslim community. So there's a lot of ideas about menstruation and periods. For example, we're not supposed to speak about it in public. It's very shameful. When you have menstruation and you have a problem, you can't ask out loud. You have to keep quiet, right? So sometimes it's confused as women asking for help about their menstruation. For example, if they don't have any money to buy sanitary pads, they might be shamed for asking for it, right? Especially if they do it publicly. So when we are running campaigns to highlight or to let people know what is period poverty, who are the people who may be affected by period poverty, where you can get help, there are always some form of pushback from the community, in particular the Muslim community, about how you shouldn't discuss this in public. This is a shameful issue, for example. So that's one of the issues that we are trying to overcome, in terms of telling people that this is a basic right for women and girls, and if we keep it hidden away, then we cannot address it. So we have to learn to communicate it in a positive and healthy way. The second issue that we have has to do with also misunderstanding about managing menstruation, which has to do with washing of the disposable sanitary pad. This is largely practiced by the Muslim community in Malaysia, which is quite unique and quite problematic, because the disposable sanitary pad, which is a common product used for menstruation, can be thrown away, right? Actually, if you just wrap it nicely, you can throw it safely. But there is an understanding among the Muslim community that you are supposed to wash it. So they believe that if we don't wash it, then there's going to be like jinn and shaitan that will come and attack women and girls who don't wash the sanitary pad. So we've had clarifications from our religious leaders and ulama to say that, you know, there are no dalil, there are no concrete texts to say that this is the case, so you don't have to do this. But we've seen a lot of pushback from Muslims, especially in questioning the validity, and they're saying that this has to do with hygiene issues, and you know, if we don't talk about this, safety of girls and women, and issues of hysteria, for example, relating to jinns and shaitan. So there are definitely challenges, but we've been very lucky because we are also able to work with like fiqh scholars and other academics and religious teachers who are willing to undo this kind of teachings in the community. So it's really, I emphasize, it's really about working together, like not just, you know, academics working at universities, NGOs working on the ground, politicians working elsewhere. So what we've seen with period poverty in Malaysia is that everybody works together despite their political parties, despite different religions, despite different ethnicities. So it's a good example of how we can come together to, you know, practice Rahmatan Alamin. So there are definitely challenges, of course.
Thank you very much. Very impressive practice of Islam Rahmatan lil Alamin. Yeah, through the raising awareness about poverty period. Okay, so I will be fair. I will pose the last question to Senator Sihar Kamran, yeah, from the Pakistan. As since you are politician, women politician, yeah, we are very proud of you. So my question is, do you find any challenges or difficulties, especially in promoting the sensitive gender regulation in Pakistan?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to answer this very important questions. Yes, we do face misperceptions and our rigid attitudes, especially from our colleagues, because sometimes these are not based on facts and realities. Especially, you know, I would like to share my experience when I moved the legislation to restrain the child marriages, because this is very important that we give the girls their equal rights and opportunities to education, to their health, and to their life. And we have to understand that no marriage can take place without the consent of the girl and the boy. That is what the nikah is. I try to gather data from all over the Muslim countries, and even a fatwa from Al-Azhar Sharif, and I moved the legislation, but it was really difficult for the people to make them understand that how important the girls' health is and how much problem they face when they are married when they are very at a young age, and then if they get pregnant and they deliver immature child, or their child mortality rate is increasing, and then population growth is another challenge. So all these issues are very important, that girls should also have their right of education, which our constitution, the constitution of Pakistan, guarantees these rights. But as far as the customs and the traditions, we are, I think we are the victims of these traditions and the customs, and we are not ready to accept the realities. So there are challenges, especially when we move the legislation, like violence against women, or it's very difficult because people have different parameters of thinking what is violence and what is not violence, and where the the independence of the girls or their right to live on their own is compromised. So there are misperceptions, and we do face that. And it's not only that exactly we are talking about the general public, even the colleagues who are very well educated, who understand, and who they also, they come in opposition and they don't let these legislation pass. I tried my best, as I'm a former senator. I tried my best to get the law passed from the Senate. I got it passed from the standing committee, but was never able to have the voting in the House. But then Senator Sherry Rahman, she moved the legislation. She got the law passed from the Senate, and now this law is still pending in the National Assembly. So there are misperceptions, and the only way forward, which I believe, is education. Only a good education can create awareness, and which is, I believe, is the basic of our religion, that every person who is male or female should get this right of education, to have awareness, to understand the issues, to understand the well-being of a society and well-being of the mankind. So this is, I believe, the only way forward is to promote education. And even one more thing I would like to mention, that my leader Benazir Bhutto, who was the first prime minister of the Muslim world, and she not only promoted women education, women empowerment, she also challenged. She was a strong voice against extremism and terrorism. But her life was full of challenges. People were not ready to accept her as, like, initially, that a female could be the prime minister of a country. So despite, like, we talk about, like, independence, we talk about our constitution, we talk about our culture, but there are some misperceptions. Those exist in the mind of the people, and they are the hardliners. They are the one, they ruin the society, and they ruin the real essence of our religion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Sihar. And our distinguished speaker, as well as the participant, we are almost finished to wrap up the session. But before that, let me ask the speakers to have like 1 minute closing remark from each of you. I will start from His Excellency Ambassador Muhammad Hassan, please, for the closing remark.
Thank you very much, Madam. This is one of a very fruitful session which I ever attended, especially on the issue of women and the status of women in Islam, which has been controversial in some part of the world. And of course, we should also admit that there are many things which should not be in our societies, in the Islamic societies, regarding the status of women, which are there, and which I blame the culture of our countries. And hope that this exchange of views and ideas among the 4 important Islamic countries will help us understand the issue globally, and we will be able to make a concerted effort in order to address these issues. And thank you very much for Republic of Indonesia and the organizers, INFIT, Muhammadiyah, and Nahdlatul Ulama, for arranging this one. And I think we should continue with these exercises in future and learn from each other's experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Excellency. So I will move to Professor Dr. Munjia Suwaihi to give a 1 minute closing remark, please.
أقول شكرا أولا لحكومة إندونيسيا وللمنظمين المنظمات التي نظمت هذا اللقاء الرائع جدا، وأضم صوتي إلى صوت سعادة السفير محمد حسن أن تستمر هذه اللقاءات وهذه التجارب الرائعة، وأقترح عليكم أن يكون لقاء معناتها لقاء قادم إن شاء الله يضم النساء المفسرات للقرآن الكريم، والتي تناولنا قضايا يستعملها البعض للتمييز ضد المرأة ولقهرها ولمنعها من المشاركة في الحياة الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والسياسية كما هو صائر الآن في أفغانستان من طرف أشخاص لا يعلمون الكثير عن الدين الإسلامي، وأن هذا الدين دين الحرية، دين الرحمة، دين المساواة بين الجنسين في جميع الحقول في جميع حقول الحياة الاجتماعية والاقتصادية والسياسية. ونعلم السيدة عائشة كيف شاركت في السياسة، ونعلم سلمة كيف يعني حلت مشكل كبير جدا في غزوة الحديبية إلى غير ذلك من نساء العالم. ونعلم أن هناك 10,000 امرأة روت الحديث، وأن العلماء قالوا ثبت عن الرجال أنهم كذبوا في رواية الحديث، ولم يثبت على امرأة واحدة أنها كذبت عن الحديث. وتعلمون أن السيدة عائشة كانت أستاذة، كانت تعلم الصحابة. فلنواصل هذا المنهج، ولكم الشكر الحقيقة. فلكم المبادرة اليوم مبادرة رائعة جدا، بارك الله فيكم، وإن شاء الله نجتمع في الخير، وشكرا لكم.
Thank you very much, Professor Munjia. I will move to Sister Fatima. Please give 1 minute closing remark.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for organizing such a wonderful session. I have learned a lot through the session, and to the speakers, His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Hassan, Prof. Mongia, Prof. Alima, and also Sister Anggia. I learned so much from all of you. MashaAllah, Jazakillah khairan kaseera to all of you. And I think one of the things just now that Mbari highlighted was on how do we move forward together. So I think in closing this, I hope we have more sessions like this, and we can create more conversations that move into learning from each other, and coming up with better initiatives, not just at our local levels in our countries, but also to come together and work on larger issues that affect not just women, but how women can also be factors of change for our societies in bringing about a better representation of Islam, and in highlighting the role of Islam and Muslims in bringing about Rahmatan lil Alamin. So thank you again very much. I really appreciate being able to be here and learning from all of you. Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Since Ibu Anggia and also Prof. Alim they have to attend another agenda, I would call the last speaker, Senator Sehar, to give your closing remark. Please.
Thank you. I sincerely appreciate the initiative. It was a great learning experience for me, and I believe, and it was good to listen to everyone and to understand that how we can collaborate and what kind of issues that we face at the different part of the world in different countries. And I hope that we will continue this in the future also. My one suggestion is that exactly we need to promote education, and I suggest that there should be an educational channel, so which could have more outreach, where we can help people have education who are unable to go to the schools or who are unable to have the formal education, but still learning should continue. Learning should continue, and that is the best way forward. More we have women in the decision making positions, better legislation could be done, better decisions could be made, better participation could be done. Because I would again repeat the words of the father of my nation, that no nation can progress and reach to the glory unless the women of that country are working side by side. So this is very important. We cannot eliminate the women from our society, and this is the history of Islam. We have seen great women, and we have to follow their example. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Sister Sihar. So, distinguished speaker and also all the participants, since it's almost 6 p.m. in Jakarta time, so we are closing the session very soon. As moderator, I'm apologize for any mistake or inconvenience in chairing this session. So I would like to thank you for His Excellency Ambassador Muhammad Hassan, as well as the distinguished speaker. Today we are learning very much about the role of women organization and women groups from the experience of 4 countries, from Indonesia, Malaysia, Tunisia, as well as Pakistan. We hope that after this seminar, we will have some continuous discussion as well as synergy and also cooperation between women groups in those countries to address the problem that's still faced by Muslim women in the world, and we also can share and also changing best practices from another countries, for respective countries, I mean. So before we close officially this session, please open up your camera, since we will have a photo group session. And again, thank you very much, especially for the participant who joining this session. I'm so sorry that we have to close this panel very soon. See you again next time. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much. Okay.
شكرا سيدة الرئيسة. شكرا سيدة الرئيسة. كنت رائعة.
Yeah. So please open up the camera for the please. We will have a photo session, please.
As a religion of peace, Islam fundamentally emphasizes companionship, tenderness, and tolerance. The most majority of Muslims know that Islam means a blessing for the universe, or Rahmatan lil Alamin. The implementation of peaceful Islam is nurtured as wider as possible for many Muslims across the globe. The concept of Rahmatan lil Alamin, or the blessing for the universe, is prior to be fostered in various Muslim majority countries. The ulama and umaro continuously promote Islamic ideas and practices which contain the value of tolerance, peace, coexist with the principle of human rights hand in hand with local culture for every dawah, and compatible with democracy. Consistent in disseminating and practicing tender and charming Islam plays key role in maintaining Islam as a religion of peace. To provide a dynamic and fruitful discussion, INFIT, as the initiator, collaborate with Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah, inviting various Islamic organizations in Pakistan, Malaysia, and Tunisia to join together. The discussion aims to share experiences and efforts that have made by the 4 countries in strengthening the understanding and practice of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin. By having this international seminar, it is expected that the idea of tolerant and peaceful Islam in Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Tunisia will become notable and influential image for global society. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the international seminar, Building International Cooperation to Reinforce Commitments and Practices of Islam as Rahmatan lil Alamin